Hello and welcome to A Cat in the Garden. I finally coaxed Nutmeg back into the plant room. I don't know how I did it, but he's being a good boy in here today. But I want to talk about some Hoya, specifically Hoya Lacunosa, because it is no secret that I am in love with Hoya Lacunosa and I want to collect them like they're Pokemon, all of them. So I have all of my current Hoya Lacunosa to show you today. But before I do want to give a shout out to a couple that are no longer with us. I would like to replace the first one of these one day because I really loved it as a Hoya. And that is my Hoya Lacunosa Asami. It is an outer variegated, elbow variegated Lacunosa, so it is right up my alley, and I just don't know what went wrong. One day it just rotted. All the roots were gone, the stem was rotting, and it was done for. I really don't know what I did, but I would really like to replace it one day. I do know of a few sellers that I buy from frequently that have it, so I'm just waiting for the right one to pop along. And if I can actually be on time for a purge, I am so bad at that. I'll be like, okay, the purge is starting at this time in my time zone, and I'll miss it by 2 hours, and all the good plants are gone. So that's the first one. I have also killed a couple of Hoya Croniana before. I did have an issue where I thought maybe they had flat mites, so I put the two that I had in a prop box, and I left them there for several months and they rotted. So they're gone. I don't feel as much of an urge to get them back because Hoya Croniana Silver especially is not a good shipper at all. So if I could find one in person, maybe I would buy it because I do love Silver Hoya as well, but I'm just not in a rush for that one. They're very common now, the Croniana, and the blooms are the same as the Lacunosa. It's basically the same plant with a different leaf shape. So yeah, I'm not as much in a rush for those, but the Asami is truly heartbreaking. I'm gonna give Nutmeg some chicken liver because he's obsessed with it and he's being such a good boy right now. And we're gonna show off some plants because I've got some bigger ones that I can't hold while I'm holding Nutmeg, though he's really cute. I'm going to start this off with a trailing Lacunosa. That is my biggest one. That is my Hoya Lacunosa Snow Caps, and I'm leaving this on. I was gonna take it off, but I don't think I'm gonna get it back into this situation very neatly if I take it off. So you've got some cute macrame with it. This is the Snow Caps. Now this I bought from Lowe's when I worked there as a 6-inch hanging basket. It is currently in a 6-inch pot, and you might say, if you bought it, why is it barely fitting in a 6-inch pot? And that is because when I moved, it just went back down to nothing almost. It almost completely died. I was able to save 3 cuttings, and those cuttings became this beautiful trailing plant. So it is very healthy now. I felt confident putting it in a situation with drainage, which I don't really feel confident doing unless plants are bigger. Just with my style of care, I like to either have no drainage or have the nursery pot, cash pot situation. But this is doing really well. I'm very proud of it. I have 2 hanging baskets. Basically, I'm going to consider this a hanging basket in my plant room. They are both by a window. They are both Hoya and they are doing so great. And I just love how this has been such a resilient Hoya. It might not be the most exciting Lacunosa to look at. It's pretty generic, honestly. It's got some splash. It's got some no splash. It's just got all the things, and it's doing really well. So that is Lacunosa Snow Caps. Now that I have secured that one back to its spot hanging from the ceiling, I'm gonna get to some that don't weigh 10 pounds, so I can talk about them maybe a little bit longer. The next one is going to be very similar in the way that it looks, but I promise you it is different. And that is going to be my Hoya Lacunosa Royal Flush. Now this one recently has taken a little bit of a turn for the worst. I am not very proud of how it's looking. It looks very sparse. A lot of leaves fell off. There's yellowing leaves. It is different from the Snow Caps in that it is a little bit darker in the undertone and typically has more splash than a Snow Caps does. This one has a decent amount of splash, especially on this vine. right here looking very nice. You can see the wonderful yellow leaves as well. It did take a turn for the worse when I repotted it, but it was very root bound. I hadn't repotted it in the first 3 years that I owned it. So I thought, you know what, I think it's time. And it said, no, I don't think so. And it's been mad at me ever since. I think I've stopped the hemorrhaging of leaves. I do have a few that have turned yellow, but they're not falling off. So I think maybe it's getting over whatever tantrum it had when I repotted it. But if it continues to decline, I might just start it over and take a bunch of little cuttings from it, because there's nothing wrong with that either. I don't mind doing that. And if that means I'm gonna save a Hoya that I really love, I will do that, especially because this one was the first plant I ever received from my friend Jacqueline over at Jacqueline's Jungle. This was a Secret Santa gift because she got me as her Secret Santa, and that is what started our friendship. So this and my Hoya fungi that are from her, I am so determined to always keep alive because they're from her, and they're basically like our friendship plants because that's what started all of it for us. So this one's always going to be special, even if it looks kind of sad right now. Moving on to some slightly less common Hoya, because those first two are very common. This is my tiniest Hoya, I guess tiniest leaf Hoya that I own in my whole collection. It is almost impossible for the camera to pick this up, so I am gonna put my hand behind it. But this is Hoya Lacunosa peregrine durian, and it is known for having these micro tiny leaves on it. It does trail. I have seen lots of photos and videos. The seller I got this from has a giant one that just looks so cool because it's one giant big bushy plant with these teeny tiny leaves. So I'm hoping one day I can do that with this plant. It has not grown for me yet, this one. It is a newer purchase of mine, so hopefully it's just acclimating. But I do have a second one. I have talked about before how it did get mealybugs and was a big problem. The mealybugs are gone, but it doesn't look the best right now. I'm hoping it will start to do better now that all the pests are gone from it, and maybe I can pot them together one day and that'll sort of kickstart them growing. But I don't know, it's really cute. It's so cute. The leaves are this like reddish green color. They have like really cool on the back. I don't know if it'll pick up, but the red veins on the back are so neat. I've never seen a Hoya like that before, and I've never seen a Lacunosa so tiny. I really actually enjoy these tiny leaf Hoyas. They do require more humidity. So this one is living in a prop box, which is something I did not do with the first one. I'm hoping that will make a difference in it, maybe growing sooner, but we'll see. We shall see. It is really happy so far. It hasn't lost any leaves. Everything looks really firm. There's no rotting, so it is happy. Sometimes Hoyas just take a while to grow, and that's okay. Here's another one that's from Sam's Hoyas that I have yet to repot, and this was a freebie, I think. So this is technically a Hoya Lacunosa Asami, which I know I said I killed mine, but this has no variegation. So this was a freebie because it is reverted. And that's okay. I don't mind. I mean, I got it for free. I'm not ever going to complain about a plant that's free, but it's been, I think, growing a little bit. It did lose a couple leaves after I got it, but it's mostly been hanging out. It's been chilling. I think these are new, this little vine over here. So it's really nice. It does have the Asami leaf shape, which is a bit more rounded with the point, almost like a Croniana, but it's just hanging out. I don't have too much to say about it because it's just a green Lacunosa with some rounder leaves, but it's a nice plant. It is more full than some of the other cuttings that I have to show off today, so that is really nice as well. I don't have to sort of start from zero with this one. I already have a full plant, and I'm hoping one day I'll be able to have it as a big bushy trailing plant like the snow caps that I showed off at the beginning of this video. This is a Hoya that I had some really high hopes for, and I still kind of do, but it really just hasn't done well for me, and that is my Hoya Lacunosa Mr. Tent. This is all I have left after buying a basically whole plant. It just didn't like, I think it was in a really chunky mix when I bought it, and it didn't like that, and I have one cutting left. I had two. The other one rotted Couldn't figure out why. I saved the two most stable parts of the plant. This one has rooted, I think, fairly well. I think I could stand to water it, which I will do after filming this. But it has been living in a prop box. I'm hoping one day for me it'll grow. There are 2 nodes, so that is nice. If I can get one to grow, then I can chop it off again. I don't want to chop it until it is more established, because I'm just scared I'm gonna kill the whole thing if I chop it now as like one little cutting. But it's a really, really cute. It has these abs that the camera might pick up with the different lighting. It has these elongated leaves, which are really nice, and they're a little bit on the smaller side. So this is a more unique Lacunosa, which is why I wanted it. I wanted it so bad. But if anything, this is teaching me to maybe just buy, I don't know, because I bought this as a bigger plant. Because you have a higher success rate if you buy something as a bigger plant versus a cutting. But I did buy this one as a bigger plant. So hopefully it's just a fluke and it'll get better. And hopefully maybe if I do a video about Lacunosa again in the future, this one will be much bigger by that point. I have another one that also had to be rehabbed, but this one is doing a lot better. So this is sometimes referred to as a Lacunosa, sometimes not. I think I bought it as referred to as Lacunosa, so that's what I'm gonna say. It looks like a Lacunosa, but this is the species Kiander no ID, and I mean, those look like Lacunosa leaves, don't they? I don't know, some people don't put the Lacunosa in front of it when they're talking about this plant, so I don't know, but to me this is a Lacunosa. If it's not, okay. You're seeing an extra plant here. I think it is really nice with more elongated leaves than some Lacunosa out there. Other than that, it is pretty ordinary and green. There is some abs on it, not too much in terms of veining or splash. There's like little flecks of splash that the camera is absolutely not going to pick up because they're pretty small, but it is pretty basic and I recognize that, but I love Lacunosa, so I don't care. I love it. I think it's so cool. I love in the light, like if I hold it up with light behind it, no, the camera's not picking it up. You can see through it and see the veins. I think that is the most unique part about it. And you can see some abs on it with like the turning of the light anyway. So that's really nice. I think I will just hang on to that as the most unique part about it. And this one has been rehabbing really well in a prop box, the same one with the Mr. Tent. So I'm very hopeful that this will become a full-blown growing plant soon. I did this very unintentionally, but the last 3 Lacunosa are all silver. And I love silver, so I'm very excited about these last 3. This is my Hoya Lacunosa Moonlight. It is so cute. I don't think it's focusing well, so I will do that for you. Get my head out of there. This plant gave me a bloom, and I put it in one of my Target greenhouses that I used for my Hoya props while the bloom was forming, because I thought it was a peduncle, like a full-blown peduncle with a lot of blooms that were gonna come out. It was one bloom, and I'm really glad I did put it in that greenhouse because it just gave it the extra humidity boost to hold on to that bloom. I thought that this was a little bit small of a plant to be blooming in the first place, but it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. It was so cute, just like one tiny little bloom. It was very happy, and it's gone now. The whole thing fell off. There wasn't really a peduncle for it to be on because it was just one bloom coming out of there. I'd never seen anything like that before, but I just went along with it, took some photos when it happened, and it's just long gone. This plant did, though, when it was in the Target greenhouse, get very happy, and it started working on a new vine back here, and it is very cute. I'm loving the pale silver color of the emergent leaves. You can really see the abs on this one right here, which are very nice. They are a little bit more rounded, almost charting Croniana territory, but I do think the splash silver pattern on this Moonlight is very stable, and that might be why it is considered a different Lacunosa than some Croniana or other silver Lacunosas out there. I will say, once you get into the silver lime and there's like an orange something and like a leopard skin, they all look the same to me. Maybe if somebody had all of them and showed me, I might be able to see some differences in some, but I will start to get picky with Lacunosa if they all look the same. And for me, having a moonlight fills that void of a mostly silver leaf that has some splash to it. So I'm perfectly happy just having this, maybe one day getting the Croniana Super Silver again, and having the next 2 silver plants that I'm gonna talk about. I wish I could have shown this off before, but that was some pretty bad foresight on my part. This is probably my favorite. This one or the next one in terms of favorite Lacunosa. And this was a very full, trailing, beautiful plant, and I decided I'm gonna start it over, and I chopped the entire thing up into single node cuttings. So I have this beautiful little cutting to show you of my Hoya Lacunosa Moonlight. Some of the leaves get really big on this one, and I have found with the Miracle Grow orchid spikes, that really gets the leaves bigger on this one, and it just looks really cool because Lacunosa mostly have pretty small leaves in terms of Hoya. Obviously not all of them as small as the peregrine durian, but they're typically on the smaller side. These, on the other hand, get pretty big, and I think that's awesome. You can see the abs on it, and sometimes it'll have little speckles, whatever you want to call it, of darker green, but it is typically going to be a full-blown silver leaf, which I love. I think it's gorgeous. I really like that it's just pure silver without a lot of the splash, because that differentiates it from the Moonlight, which has a lot more splash. I'll just put them up next to each other for you real quick so you can see the difference. Maybe this one has a lot more splash to it. This one has basically none. And I love it. I love it so much. I really enjoy having it in the collection. I do have one of them for sale on my shop, my Etsy shop. The link is in my description, but mostly I'm just planning on having a really full plant, which is why I started it over. I will sell a couple cuttings here and there just because I don't think I'll be able to fit every single cutting I chopped up into one pot, but I really like it, and it's very hard for me to give up cuttings of plants that I like. Most of the time I end up keeping them and just putting them right back in the pot, and that's mostly what I'm gonna do with this one because it is just such a nice plant and I really enjoy having it in my collection. Finally, we've made it to the last Hoya, and you might have guessed what this one is because I showed it off recently in one of my monthly houseplant favorites, but if you didn't guess, this will be a nice surprise. So this is my Hoya Lacunosa mint coin. I'm gonna turn around this way because the leaves are facing this way. I got this at the Texas Aroid Show back in October. I put it on this lovely halo trellis from Propagation Diaries, and I have it in a decorative pot so that it's got some nice drainage. And it did lose a couple leaves, a couple older leaves when I first brought it home, because I'm assuming that the seller I got it from grows their Hoyas in very high humidity. I don't. I just don't. I am way too lazy for humidifiers, just having to refill them all the time. And I didn't want to put this one in one of my cabinets because I wanted it to grow a bit taller, and there is a height limit in the Millsbow Wide, especially because I kept all 3 shelves in there. I can really only have small Hoyas in there, which is fine, but this one I wanted to let just go wild on this trellis and get really big and beautiful. I absolutely adore these somewhat rounded Lacunosa leaves. They are a little bit bigger, some of them too. Some of them come out a little bit elongated. I don't know, it's not the most stable specimen I've ever seen, but these leaves here, this whole section, I adore it. It is so cute. It is a little bit splashy too, but you can't really tell unless you look at it up close that there's these just little speckles of dark green in there. So it is like the Moonlight in that regard, but the way that the leaves are completely different. These are very waxy, glossy, shiny, very smooth, whereas the Moonlight is a bit of a rougher leaf to me. It has a lot more texture. When the texture is smooth. There is no other texture. There's no abs, there's no veining. There's like one pronounced vein on the back of the leaf. That's pretty easy to see there. And I guess you can see the abs on the back, but on the front, not at all. So this is a very unique Lacunosa. I think if you are considering adding a Lacunosa to your collection, but you don't want ones that look all the same, because I know that can happen a lot with this kind of Hoya. this is one that I would go for. It really does look different to me than any of my other Lacunosa. It doesn't look like a Carniana. It doesn't have the typical Lacunosa leaf shape because it is more rounded, and it's just a really easygoing plant, which all Lacunosa are really. They're very easy Hoyas. They're great Hoyas for beginners, and there's a lot of variety in them. There are some that are the black leaves that I don't have. There are variegated ones, lots of those that I just don't have because I was happy with the Asami. I didn't need the inner variegated one, but I'm thinking maybe now I'm gonna have to find some variegated Lacunosa to fill the void. But back to this gorgeous plant, I just think this one or the Louisa Silver. They're my top two because I love a silvery Hoya. I love a Hoya that is absolutely little to no maintenance, and this is surely one of them. And the unique leaf shape is just the cherry on top for me. So that is it for my entire Hoya Lacunosa collection. What did you think? What was your favorite plant out of the bunch? Let me know in the comments below. But also, if you like this video, make sure to give Nutmeg and I here a thumbs up down below and subscribe so you don't miss anything from us here on the channel. Thanks again for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.